Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. My name's Aseph. I'm here with my good buddy, the Scrivener.
Hey.
And we're going to do the Every Game Ever podcast, which is a supplementary podcast audio edition of your now world famous Every Game Ever video series.
I don't know that it's world famous, but this is certainly a podcast to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's more audio to go with the videos that you already make. Which you can explain for yourself why you decided to try and play every game in the universe. But to me, it's just you doing your usual thing of playing something and giving your immediate feedback on it. Apparently running it through some science, but I don't know the science behind it. And then putting a number attached to it. So why don't you explain what Every Game Ever is to people that maybe don't know what it is?
Every Game Ever is a video series. And a few years ago, I had a very surprising and unpleasant health crisis, and it wasn't 100% that I was gonna hang around that much longer. So it became important to do the things you want to do, because that's what people do in those situations. So
yeah, you take a look at your life and realize it's not as long as you want it to be.
Yeah, and so I thought I was really into games. I work in games. Games are my passion. I wish I'd played more games. So Every Game Ever, once I got better, became sort of the flower, the silly little flower that grew out of that time. So so now I have a somewhat self-aware goal of trying to play every video game ever and documenting it for the world to see.
Yeah, which is going to be great when you get into like the PS2 era where it's all just shovelware and the fucking Garfield games and stuff like that. It's going to be fantastic. So why did you want to supplement it with this audio companion piece?
Well, the videos themselves, by necessity, are very short. They're very silly. I just sort of riff and act like a fool and do a little bit of meme stuff. And there's not a lot of room for discussion. And as somebody who has discussed video games with me for a number of years now, I thought it would be fun for us to, actually talk about these games and give them some history and things like that.
Actually, give us instead of dumb jokes, you want to give some actual context to the video games.
A little bit.
Sure, that's fine. So we're gonna start from volume 1 of Every Game Ever. I have a list in front of me that we're just gonna go through. So we're gonna start with Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception for the PlayStation 3. Was that the 3 one? Yeah.
Yeah, it was on 3.
Yeah. And you gave us a score of a perfect 8.000. So why don't you tell us about Uncharted 3, Danny?
Sure. Did you play this one?
I did. Yeah, I played all the Uncharted games.
What did you think?
Of 3 specifically, or the series?
Well, starting with 3, and then if your thoughts.
So 3, I played 3 when it came out initially, so it was a while ago that I played it. But at the time, I thought it was a really good kind of like end to a trilogy. I thought it like kind of summed up everything very, very well. Until 4 came out and kind of revealed that there's actually a way better way of ending that story. I think 3 I enjoyed less than 2, because when 2 came out, it had this like very much expanding on the first, but then also had this giant technical achievement and like the train level. And 3 just kind of seemed to be tagging along on that. It didn't really do anything new or different, just sort of kept going. But it's still a lot of fun. Like the Uncharted, the way of play of Uncharted has been very fun, and I actually really enjoy like the characters and the interaction and stuff. Some people don't, but I think it's kind of humorous and enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best on this one. It's so we're doing this cast on the first episode of Every Game Ever, but
yeah,
I'm about to round 19 and 20 in terms of the series. I'm trying to get 2 more up before next week so I can have 200 games in the first year. And so these were quite a bit ago. So it was almost a year ago, maybe a little more than a year, honestly, that I played.
I think it's probably more than a year.
Yeah, because I picked this one up pretty early in the cycle. I had played it once already. It's a Naughty Dog game. They developed it. Sony published it. It's a Nathan Drake and Uncharted. That's a big flagship franchise for Sony.
Yeah, it was in the PS3 era. Uncharted was like their big push.
Yeah,
it was one of their big pushes. It was like that and Killzone and stuff.
They're Mickey Mouse of the generation.
Yeah, Nathan Drake's really similar to Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, more or less.
Basically the same character.
I really think it was a good starting game for this Every Game Ever because it's sort of the average benchmark of its generation for a good game. Not to say it's an average game, but if you take a bunch of good video games from this time, it's about an average among that.
Yeah, it kind of encapsulates what that era was about, which is like big spectacle, big graphics, shooters,
skybox games.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of the series as a whole, I think. And one of the goals...
It thrives a lot on spectacle. It does a lot with big set moments. Yeah.
One of the reasons we're doing this show is to sort of also poke fun at how ridiculous games media is. Because this was an excellently reviewed game. And it should be. But it had a lot of praise for its writing, right? And that doesn't make much sense because the story doesn't make any sense and it's framed in this really sort of goofy, stupid, fun light. And the obvious bit of that is Nathan himself. He's a protagonist, but he's also a mass serial killer. He's not framed as any kind of anti-hero, right?
No, he's very like square jaw American hero style. Indiana Jones, basically. It's like the nice guy with a kind of cocky attitude.
And that's something to be bothered by in video games, is the idea that video games are, quote-unquote, just video games when they want to be, but at other times they want to be taken seriously. So, either Nathan Drake needs to stop shooting people en masse, his character needs to change, or you need to frame it in a way where it isn't this big, juicy, satisfying tomato blood when he kills an enemy. I'm okay with his deaths being black and white, like in the scheme they are, where the screen grows really gray, like an old movie, and being treated differently than his opposition, because storytelling allows you to project different points of view on death, depending on if it's someone the audience roots for and all that. I've got no problem with that.
Perspective is important.
Yeah, sure. No problem there, but it's like, you can show a mass murderer who's killing for his arbitrary artifacts and MacGuffins as a hero. But like, when you think about it, he's a complete and utter piece of shit.
Yeah.
So the writing isn't good. There's nothing to celebrate about the writing. It doesn't make any sense. Now, the dialogue might be good, and from what I remember,
that's what I was going to say. It's like cleverly written. It's like funny, and the characters interact in a good way.
The dialogue I remember was quite good. And now the obvious caveat to all this is the game is fun. It's undeniably fun, unless you
good playing game.
If you can't buy into Drake, which obviously is fair, then maybe that's a deal breaker. But otherwise, I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
He's lovable because he's sort of naive, right? He's like a dumb fuck that doesn't know he's a psycho. And there's sort of a dark reality to it, isn't there?
Yeah, sort of the I think the term that gets bandied around a lot, especially at that time, was ludonarrative dissonance, where it's the character's actions don't match what the character is as a person.
Yep.
But I can understand that perspective on it, where he just seems to be this kind of hapless buffoon, but also part mass murderer for no reason.
I said in the episode that he's really American. He's super greedy. He's oblivious to the damage he does because under the surface he's like really racist. I mean, like, look at the people he shoots. Like, I think in this one it was British folks for the most part.
You start out in London and then move towards like the Middle East. And
he has a history of he's got to start moving toward the Middle East. It's just it's creepy, and the cover of the game is creepy to me.
It's him. Was it burning plate in the background?
Yeah,
in the desert?
Or he's just like just. He's got this look on his face, like the self-satisfied look.
He's an adventurer. That's what he does. Blazes a trail.
I don't know about that kid. He's a cutie. Right. He's a cutie, but
he is a cutie. But
teacher needs to keep an eye on him. Do you remember You remember any specific points of this game that you found memorable?
I remember the very start of it being cool, the fight in the pub being really interesting. Like, I thought that was a good opener.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But other than that, I don't really remember any specifics about it.
I remember the cruise ship level.
Yeah, that was really impressive because it was like the level was moving like on its axis, like the ship was constantly like getting thrashed around the waves and stuff.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
And there was a level in some ancient ruins at the end that was okay.
Could be any level in an Uncharted game.
Exactly. It seems like they always sort of delve into hocus pocus later on, don't they? Like it's semi-real like for a while.
Two ended in a real bullshit hocus pocus way, which I didn't really enjoy considering how good that game was, but
it's just video games.
Let's move on and talk about another video game that I know that you love personally. It's D, which you gave a 2.563. I can't remember what console this was on. So
it was on, I think, PS1 and the Saturn, and it may have gotten a 3DO release. I'm not sure.
Right.
So why don't you tell us about D?
Because I know you love it so much.
Oh man, I wanted to play this game for the longest time, and then this opportunity came up, and wish I could just take it all back. It was not as good as it would have been in my head. It was a game spearheaded by a guy named, I believe, Kenji Eno. And I hate to speak ill of something a deceased man obviously cared about, but it's just not very good. It's a horror game. And by the way, I was telling you, I dug this up for the Saturn to play it for every game ever, and then found out last week it was on Steam. So
it's a Steam release for it. Yep.
Yeah, I probably could have just played it on Steam, but oh well.
Yep.
The story goes, there's a mass murderer. It's a doctor in a hospital, and the police send in Laura, who is the protagonist, to, I don't know, get information, appeal to him. It's his daughter. I don't know. That seems like shoddy police work to me.
Yeah.
This is one where I probably said everything that needed to be said in the EG episode. Horrible pacing, no mechanics development. It's a really bad Myst style game, and it just looks awful now. It looks slow. It was that early PlayStation Saturn era, and they were trying really, really hard to make 3D pushed as hard as it could.
Yeah,
and it just wasn't there.
A lot of people were at that time.
You know? Oh, it just was not there. So even as a nostalgia thing, I don't think this works.
Yeah, I mean, I've not played this, so I can't really add to it.
Mechanically,
from the stuff that I've seen, it looks pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's mechanically just devoid and super slow. So I recommend avoiding.
You can get it for $5 on Steam if you really want to play it and not listen to
I wait for the Steam sale.
Said. It's pretty great. Okay, let's move on. Next, we have Sega Rally Championship, which you gave a 3.313. Again, don't know, was this a Genesis game or
it was it was Saturn.
Saturn.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a port over from like an arcade sit-down car machine kind of thing. The way Daytona USA and Ridge Racer and all those were.
Yes, those are arguably better games, however, but
yeah. A lot of people at the time apparently liked this game. I find that in the research. Apparently the realism of the car drifting was a really high selling point, but that's not really enough anymore, obviously. I played the port. It's possible the arcade version was better, but I definitely played the Saturn version. I own that one. And the content is just super narrow. That's the big thing about this game. You think about Super Mario Kart and it coming out, I don't know, a few years before this, and you've got all these tracks and all these characters. Sega Rally Championship had a total of like 2 selectable cars and a third you can unlock, and they were mostly the same. The options just weren't there. So it had the real, but that's all it had.
I was going to say they care more about, because it's a rally game, they care more about like the realism of the actual driving than you being able to pick your driver or your car or whatever.
Yeah, and that sounds pretty cool in an arcade setting, but racing games don't have narrative. They don't and they should. They don't have a lot of characterization, which they should. So to get anywhere, you need features and a variety of tracks and settings, and so this had realism and absolutely nothing else.
So it gets 3.313 for realism.
It just doesn't offer much for a game.
That's fair. Moving on, we have Splatterhouse, which you gave a perfect 3, a 3.000.
Solid.
Solid, yeah. This game was this had like the rip-off Jason Voorhees guy in it, right?
Yeah,
the big dude with the mask. Yeah.
I think his name was Rick in the game.
Okay.
You played as Rick.
Yes, you're correct. The main character is called Rick. Yeah. Really likes him some Jason Voorhees. So why don't you tell us about Splatterhouse?
Okay, Splatterhouse, 1988. It's a beat-em-up horror game.
Is it really a horror game? I thought it was just about you walking through a house and killing things with a lot of blood.
I mean, isn't that horror?
Is it? I don't know.
It's obviously a play off those popular 80s.
Does that mean that Mortal Kombat's a horror game? I don't know.
No, I guess. I mean, that's valid. I think this is horror because it evokes Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. It's going for a genre.
A horror tribute. And there's a lot of body horror. It's not just killing, it's like mutated guts monsters.
Sure, okay. That's fair.
And it's actually conceptually really intense. Like 1988, that's pretty intense for a video game, honestly. I liked how willing they were to be dark with the game. A lot of stuff, even the movies this drew inspiration from were fairly cheeky for the most part. Like some of the horror got silly, but this game takes itself really seriously.
Yeah.
And honestly, for 88, it looks pretty good too. The biggest issue is it just handles chunky. It handles really stiff. Namco did the game both in def and pub. I won't get into the story. It's just a girlfriend rescue thing with a lot of supernatural horror crap. I do remember Rick is the hero and Jennifer is his lady. I'm trying to think. There were a few things to its credit. I think it had some auto saving. For that time,
that's good for the 80s.
And it was in an arcade, so like the idea of the arcade business model is to rob people of quarters, and autosave goes against that. So kudos to them on playing a little bit fair or whatever.
Giving people a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And Rick's moveset is a little bit varied, and the bosses were cool, but all that's not enough to make the game worthwhile. We'll talk about Altered Beast in a second, which is a good comparison and why Altered Beast is a little bit better.
Sure. So I can't really add to this. It's been a while since I've actually played Splatterhouse. But this next game, we have Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, which he gave a 7.813, which a lot of people are surprised about because not many people like this video game.
No, they don't, do they?
Because it's not the same as the other Zelda that they've played.
They don't like that it's weird.
Yeah. They don't like that they tried to do something different that led to them making the same Zelda game for like 20 years until Breath of the Wild came out.
I haven't done Zelda 1 for every game ever, but I assure you Zelda 2 is better.
Than Zelda 1?
Yes.
Okay.
So the one that violates...
Take us through your thought process on that one.
Well, we'll get that one later. But this Zelda game is super primitive, super basic, but it wound up with a strong score here, despite what many would probably feel is too retro. Like, I think most people, even who like games now, would pick it up and be like, okay, this is too far back.
There's a lot of like crappy hitboxes and like stuff that happens in that game that's just, it bears its age on its sleeve. It's
early 1987. So the SNES controls are not up to snuff, especially at this point. You've got to learn the sword play a bit, know when you need to bail on a fight as opposed to hammering it out. And get used to getting scummed, like it's got some unfair bullshit. But, for an NES game, it's pretty on par. So the main reasons this got above average. So, first of all, I don't weigh franchise at all. So having Zelda on the game box means nothing to me.
They're treated in isolation from each other.
They are, yeah, for sure. And even if they weren't, like... You and I, Zelda. We don't worship Zelda anyway.
No, I have no connection to Zelda whatsoever.
So why is Zelda 2 good? Because newer Zelda games I'd imagine one of them somewhere, even if it's just a portable, will get below this, even though it's an NES game. And, there's going to be some other obtuse Zelda games that will get lower than this one did.
I assume still, yeah.
The reasons I like this game in general are the music is really, really good, especially for an NES era. It's the first to use a lot of the Hyrule themes and things like that.
Okay, sure.
It's technically good for an NES game. It's not very forgiving, but it's also not a game that's just going to constantly bug on you and cost you lives and things like that.
Sure.
It has a magic and skill system that works, and once you sort of know how it works, it's not complicated. It's simple, but because the game has to be simple, it works. It has an auto save system for a game this big. So important.
Yeah, especially for a game that has a lot of not platforming stuff, but like weird combat encounters that can sometimes just kill you out of nowhere.
Far travels, things like that. Like without some sort of autosave, this game would be borderline unplayable because it would take so long to finish or to get anywhere in. And it's actually for its time, it's a large game. You go to towns. The NPC dialogue is terrible, and it's all, they speak in like 1-2 words, but they're all useful. They're giving hints. It has random encounters and different types in different places. So to me, this is one of the first examples of like a Skyrim type experience. There's a lot of innovation.
Open world.
Yeah, for sure. So it barely resembles it, but it's a seed.
Is that an interesting way of seeing it? Yeah, you can see the kind of like beginning seed of that sort of idea.
Yeah,
it's the sort of
absolutely.
thing that people had about Castlevania 2 as well, where that had like the town that you would run away from and all that stuff.
You can see like the sort of the early beginnings of some of these games that have come to pass well later. I mean, Skyrim's whatever 20-something years older than this game, but a lot of the basic ideas of how the experience would play out are definitely there. So
yeah,
it's the roots of game.
Now very popular genres of like open world RPGs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and Zelda sort of itself looped back around to it, where it spent 20 years kind of doing the same thing forever, and then Breath of the Wild came out and it sort of turned that entire genre on its head. Instead of like following the normal open world format, it's decided to just go entirely open with it and go like, no, you go and do literally whatever it is you want and the game will react around it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
cool to see. Yeah,
nice the Zelda franchise, they've got infinite resources and people are going to love it, so they may as well innovate some. And so Zelda 2 was the first of that.
Yeah, they tried innovation, which is always admirable when people try and do something a bit different.
Cool game.
It's a cool little game. Move on to talking about Aladdin on the Genesis.
This is another really cool game.
Yeah, 6.501. I remember this game from my childhood.
Of course.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
No, because I was very young and that first level's incredibly hard. So
yeah, it's fair.
It's good music though. Like I always like that, and The Lion King had the like 8-bit variances of Disney songs that I thought were really good.
Yeah, it's a big selling point for those games. Those games would have been over $100, like inflation. Like when you factor in inflation, like N64 games were $80 at the time, which is wild. Those rights were expensive.
Yeah.
So this was a collaboration. First of all, I played the Genesis one. That's the one that everyone agrees is the best
most people have played the Genesis version.
Yeah, that's the better one. Disney Software, Virgin Games, they both collaborated on the Dev and Pub, and it's just super competent. It's got it has an item shop that thrilled me. It has
an item shop?
It does. It's super basic. You can get like 3 items and the guy only shows up, I don't know, 4 times in the whole thing. But it's something. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
There's a dungeon character, or not a dungeon character. There's a dungeon level that I didn't like because it has a lot of platforming where these bricks come out of the wall, but then go back
it does
in.
the Mega Man thing.
Yeah, and you gotta, but it wasn't as good as Mega Man at it.
Yeah, it's not the jumps in Aladdin are not as precise as the jumps in Mega Man.
Yeah, exactly. It was not great. Other than that, though, I enjoyed it. There was the carpet ride where you try to escape the lava wave. It's like an auto scroll level. There's a lot of variant gameplay, and it's super fun. And for a game like this, all you need is for the songs and the characters to be even close to matching the story. Yeah, it's got little mini games here and there. So I don't know yet. It's probably a little early, but this might be the best Genesis game. I can't say that as a fact, but
yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of games that I think are better than Aladdin.
I'm just saying it's possible. That's all I'm saying.
You're talking about a system that had fucking Sonic 2 on it. That's like,
yeah.
So I think Sonic 2 is better than Aladdin, but we've not been through it and we've not done the signs and stuff.
I did like Aladdin better than Sonic 3. I think I did that one at one point.
Sure.
They were close though.
Yeah. Next we have Kid Icarus. Is this for the NES?
It is, yeah. 1986. Just before
2.750
game shit. Yeah, it's bad.
Game is shit. Yeah, I played Kid Icarus a bunch, and yeah, that game's a pile of garbage.
Yeah, it's got some nostalgia.
Go ahead.
It's got some nostalgia love from like the retcons. It was on. Pitt was featured on the Captain N, the Game Master, the Nintendo Saturday morning cartoon of the late '80s.
Yeah.
They called him Kid Icarus, I think, on the show instead of Pitt, which is kind of funny. But yeah, the game's super, super hard and really self-important about it. Hard for no benefit. There's no real satisfaction.
You're just basically just climbing up, right? Because you're trying to get back to heaven or something like that. So you're just going up a giant tower, and it's ridiculous.
Well, you're probably saving your lady, right? I
can't remember the story.
I think that's how it goes, as it does. And you got a Smash Brothers run and a handheld game. So Pitt is just always at the fringe of Nintendo mascot canon. But
yeah, he was brought in for that third Smash Brothers game, and everybody went, "Who's this?" And then he snowballed about from there. That portable game's not bad. It's not terrible.
Well, I'll find out one of these days.
You'll find out when you get to it, but it's definitely better than Kid Icarus on the NES.
Yeah, Kid Icarus is shit. Yeah, it's no good.
Move on to Alter Beast.
Hell yeah.
Which system did you play this on?
Genesis
6.125.
Hell yeah.
Alter Beast is really cool. I like Alter Beast.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's just a really good Scyther beat 'em up. Like, you get to turn into weird animals with magic powers, and then that guy tells you to welcome to your doom, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's badass. Like, it's super simple in its presentation, but it doesn't really do anything wrong. Like, what else did we talk about? Let's see.
Splatterhouse,
Rally. Okay, Uncharted. Uncharted's obviously the best game we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But the score is not necessarily indicative of me. There will be games I don't like.
The score is the science half. That's where you run the numbers and you get a number at the end of it. Yeah, not your opinion on the game.
Yeah. So Altered Beast might be my second favorite, even though it's lower than some of this other stuff. Because it's just, there's something just delicious in its creepy, beautiful simplicity. You just punch shit, and sometimes you turn into a monster.
Yeah, you get that animation cutscene of the guy flickering and turning into the animal.
It's sweet.
And you get lightning powers.
Yeah, they have different powers too. So you're always interested in like, ooh, which one will I get and stuff like that. It's just a really cool game. Like it's a fun beat 'em up. I would play this game like right now for fun. Now I can
like if you want that kind of if you want that kind of thing, then yes, a really good one of those.
Yeah, play Altered Beast. It'll make you a better person. It's a cool game.
Next we have a real classic of Metroid for the NES. 4.187.
Yep, that's low.
Do you want to take us through this? Because I think a lot of people would be kind of mad about why this game is as low as it is, even though I totally understand why it's as low as it is.
So I'll quickly reiterate some of what I said in the video. That this game is not revolutionary, and it's a very patronizing to say that it is almost. The big reveal, of course, is at the end that the protagonist, who has been covered in, all this space gear,
power armor,
that she is female, and leaning on the fact that that's considered a twist, and that during her reveal, she's standing there in like her underwear or a bikini.
Yeah,
or
she's
whatever.
in like a bikini.
Yeah, basically. Like that's sad. That's not really revolutionary. It's kind of pathetic. So anyway, that's my piece on that. But that's the least of its problems. The gameplay is pretty miserable. It's got the original exploration power-up stuff that Metroid does, but it's got that retro hard for no benefit and a lot of repetition. So it's really unrefined. It's really the skeleton of the franchise, and we get the meat later on with some much better games.
Yes, I was going to say, so it's similar to when we had that conversation about Zelda 2, kind of like having the seeds of the idea. The Metroid formula would be like carried forward and refined, and it's an important game for historical purposes, but it's not exactly a good game for itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it did lead to things like Symphony of the Night, which I know you like. So it's an important thing to kind of do on the list. And then we have our last game, which is Primal Rage. Which version of this did you play?
Super Nintendo? Either SNES or Genesis. It definitely wasn't the Saturn or PS version.
Right. 3.831. This is the fighting game with that giant ape thing that poos or farts on you or whatever.
Yeah, it throws up and pisses and does all kinds of juvenile horse shit.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Yeah.
It's a fighting game where instead of people or the Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat humanoid thing, they're prehistoric gods. Except they're dinosaurs or they're large monkeys. And most of these are palette swaps. There aren't a lot of characters, and there are like 2 or 3 palette swaps. So even the variety is sort of not really variety. And so this was 1994. Fighting games were the most successful genre at the time. This was sort of the first of the
this was like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat era where...
Yeah. Primal Rage came out just a little after Mortal Kombat 2, I think. The weirdest thing about this game to me is it had DRM. There was...
Oh, really?
Yeah, the arcade chip had anti-piracy stuff, and it made Probe, who did the port for this game, they're the same ones that did it for at least one Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
I know they did the Genesis one. They may have done the SNES one as well. They had a horrible time doing all the ports, and there were a lot of ports because they didn't have access to all the info because there was anti-piracy stuff on the...
Do you know what the DRM was? Was it just like...
I still have no idea. As far as I know, nobody's gotten into it. Like, you can't play
it's still not been like cracked to this day, like the arcade version.
Like, MAME emulators, arcade emulators, I don't think you can play Primal Rage on those.
Jeez, that's nuts.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know how many people care.
That's what I was about to say, is like, who wants to play Primal Rage arcade version?
Yeah,
like,
maybe they just don't have the crew they need to do something like that because not enough people care, but the internet, I don't know. There's a lot of people. You
feel like somebody would. There's usually these dark bits of the internet where people care about that sort of thing.
So really, it was I think Atari did the game originally, so it was on them.
Yeah.
But the game, as far as how it plays, it's super bulky. The characters are boring. The special moves, I remember, or maybe it's just the finishers. Something had some really overly complex moves.
So this is what I was going to say, is what I remember from Primal Rage. Being a fan of fighting games, the execution in that game is horrendous.
Yeah,
like all of the special moves and the like super finishers at the end had like an insane... It was either a combination of stick inputs and button presses, or it was just like a series of button presses. I couldn't remember. But there was like 25 characters long or something, so it was almost impossible to pull off.
Yeah, I remember it being
all the special moves have like dumb inputs and stuff like
excessive.
that. Like it's crazy.
I remember it being excessive. So not a very good video game. Not really a funny or interesting one to boot.
No,
and
unless
pretty sure they were
like
going for more.
That far.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're in the market for. Primal Rage
will
do it.
I'm sure there are even better games that have that, but yeah,
like. Again, Games Media, this Primal Rage got some rave reviews. So part of what we're doing here is trying to keep it honest.
Let's
looking
cast
at games as they are. Yeah.
Sure. So that's all of the games in Every Game Ever Volume 1. So now I'll ask you what you're playing currently for the new EGEs. I think you've been playing a lot of Dark Souls 3, right?
I have, yeah. I'm done with Dark Souls 2, so 2 will appear well before 3 does.
Yeah.
As far as other games, Fire Emblem Birthright.
That game's interesting.
Doing that one. What are the other ones? There's a few different ones I'm playing right now, but Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah.
I figure I've got to do that one eventually, so that might be a good one to get out of the way.
I will be interested to talk about that because I certainly have some opinions about that game.
Oh yeah, but, nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Best game ever. What are you playing?
So the things that I'll recommend to people are there's a game called Into the Breach, which is a new game by the people that made FTL, which is a game I love. I love FTL to death. Into the Breach is like a weird tactical chess-like mech combat game. Super interesting, really, really clever, really difficult, but well worth digging into. And I also downloaded a game that's called Deep Rock Galactic, which I think I'm going to be playing with my brother, which is a kind of combination between a survival game and Left 4 Dead. You play these dwarfs that they get sent onto a planet by a mining company to mine this specific resource, but the planet's also infested by these giant Starship Trooper style bugs. So everybody has these kind of like guns, but also like mining tools, and it's really cool, and it has a really unique like style and way of writing it that is kind of humorous, which I'm enjoying. So I'm going to play more of that.
You're also playing World of Warcraft.
Yes, I went back. I went back to World of Warcraft because one of my friends was playing it and kept bugging me. So I went back to playing World of Warcraft.
Just wanted to make sure you told the people.
Yeah,
you're definitely playing WoW right now.
I am definitely playing World of Warcraft right now. In fact, when we're done recording, I'm going to go play World of Warcraft. That's what I'm going to do.
You got any plugs? You want to tell them your character?
Yeah. So if you want to hear more from me and not Scriv, but you know where to find Scriv because you know where Every Game Ever is. If you want to hear more from me, you can go and look up GameEngineStart.com or the Game Engine Start podcast on iTunes or anywhere that you download podcasts. We're everywhere. It's a podcast I do twice a month with my brother, where we delve more into like more current games and the news and whatnot. Your standard sort of video game podcast fare. But with that, I think we are done for the day. So I think it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Scrivener.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you for the next Every Game Ever podcast.